like usual, the science fiction establishment shows that they don't even care about sci-fi whatsoever. This is where we're at right now, as Washington, D.C. is now dropping the World Science Fiction Convention bid over, you guessed it, Donald Trump. How exciting. Stunning and brave. Science fiction, yes, please clap, everybody. And it's really wild because this organization has had so many problems over the years. Look at these dudes in dresses here. Unbelievable. But this is what you get when you let these mentally ill people take over your whole genre and let them gatekeep. I mean, it's really utterly ridiculous where this all goes on. And they're going to just circle the drain even further than they ever have before because nobody wants to deal with this type of stuff or these hyperventilating people. People just want to have fun with science fiction and talk about books, and that's what we like to do as well. So please hit the like and subscribe button. Join us here as we talk about all things in sci-fi and the culture, my friends. I really appreciate you all for being here. I write real sci-fi, and this is the type of stuff that you used to get back in the 80s from Baen Books that you would love. It's called The Stars Entwined. It's about a man who embeds himself on an alien starship to bring back information towards Earth to, of course, help with this war. It's a 3-book trilogy. A lot of cool sci-fi elements in it. I had a notice the other day, a little noticing, that a lot of modern sci-fi that I read doesn't really have any sci-fi elements to it. I was reading one book. I'm not gonna call out the author. I actually enjoyed it, but it was a military science fiction, and it was like I saw nothing in it that had sci-fi. Like, yes, it took place on a planet, and they mentioned that there's like a empire out there or something like that. But like, he could have said it in the Civil War, could have said it in any time, and it would have been exactly the same because it was just people fighting people. There was betrayal. There was a little love interest, but there was nothing. There was no like super weapon. There was no alien sort of stuff going on. There was no weird tech that like changed anything that was really prevalent in the book. This happens more often than not. I do make sure there's science fiction elements in all of my science fiction books. I think that's important for the genre, and that's what we used to have back in the day. But hey, I'm digressing. I'm getting off topic right now, and I just wanted to get you guys started reading this weekend. So check it out here. I've actually got a spin-off series I'm writing right now, which is the best work of my career. I'm so excited. So catch up on this world because this world's really awesome, and I'm going to be setting a lot of books here in the future. So this is a great spot. It's available on ebook, print, and audio. You're going to love this, and thank you guys so much. If you're a Babylon 5 fan, this is definitely going to be for you. That's kind of my first love back there is Babylon 5. Shout out to Babylon 5 viewers back there. All right, let's get into what Worldcon's doing, my friends. Worldcon shows it's increasingly more concerned about real-world politics and about science fiction as its members complain about the lack of mention of politics in the Seattle 2025 Worldcon newsletter. And Washington, D.C. drops its bid to host a future Worldcon. So this used to be a place for the best of science fiction writers. It started in 1939 in New York, and of course, the who's who of sci-fi would always go. Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, you would all gather there. Gene Roddenberry from Star Trek was like big up in the World Science Fiction Convention scene. It was the happening spot for sci-fi. And it got kind of weird over the last 20 years. The first thing that really tipped the scales here. In 2001, Gore author John Norman was excluded despite selling millions of copies of his books. He believes it was over politics and over feminism that was happening, and he wrote a letter to them to complain. I was actually banned in 2017 under false pretenses. They called me a racist bully on their website. I sued them over it, and I won. Because they were liars, of course, and they just wanted to exclude me because I write better science fiction than them. That's all I could figure out on this. They don't like my commentary on YouTube here, right? They also banned a fellow who's from the convention when he was already there a couple years later, who like is a short fiction reviewer who did nothing wrong. They just know his politics, and they've been banning a guy who runs the Chengdu Worldcon Hugo Awards recently. Because he fell out of favor because of the way the Hugo Awards were run, even though I'm not sure it was all his fault. Now, interestingly enough, they embroiled themselves in politics on other levels. They got Raytheon, the weapons manufacturer, to sponsor them in 2022. You can't make this stuff up. Like, this is like one of the biggest evil organizations in the world. Sci-Fi often warns about weapons manufacturers and the like, and yet they have them sponsor their deal, right? Ban me, but hey, mass murdering genocide Raytheon that's going to drop bombs on little children. Cool. Let's have them sponsor us. Yeah, this is how absurd these people's politics are. And this is what virtue signaling is for the left and these social justice warriors, right? They don't actually do anything. They don't actually accomplish anything. It's just about having their own insular little mean girls network. And then on top of it, Like they actually sponsor evil a lot more than not. Then, as I mentioned, they went to Chengdu, China, right? And China, they have slave labor going on, building all this stuff, human rights violations up the wazoo. It's a scary place over in China, right? So, I mean, you get Raytheon, you get China, yay, but ban certain authors that you don't like their opinions on YouTube, right? It's really absurd how far these people go and how sick they are, very clearly. But they did it, and they went to Chengdu, China, and Chengdu, China went very weird. The CCP actually got involved in their Hugo Awards and caused problems for them, and they couldn't do anything about it. They just let it happen. It was very, very bizarre. Again, the virtue signaling is all about virtue signaling. It's not about anything else. Well, they can't hyperventilate about China in China or they're going to get into trouble. And that's exactly why they just let it happen, right? They don't actually take stands, any of these people. They just do what's convenient. And this is exactly what they have now. So Donald Trump, of course, is in the news, and that really makes them scared. And all these people are hyperventilating so much on Blue Sky. They're going crazy, going off about how they don't feel safe flying. They don't feel safe at all in the United States. It's like, are you insane? But yes, the answer is yes, they are insane. And a lady actually was calling for Worldcons to not be held in the United States at all a couple months ago because they were upset about potential threats to trans travelers or something like that. Very, very weird. It's just totally made up nonsense all the way around, just like they make up their genders, right? These are people who, unfortunately, if you think about it, science fiction and fantasy, right? They can't get out of their fantasy worlds. They can't even, admit they're a man or a woman because they're so mentally ill. And so, of course, they've invented this whole thing in their head where there's this evil, literally Hitler out there who's watching their every single move, like he cares about Worldcon to begin with. Right? Trump, can you imagine Trump caring about Worldcon? My gosh. So this is actually taking tangible action now. So as of this meeting, the Baltimore-Washington Area Association decided to end its bid to host the 2026 SMOFCon. Since we announced the bid at SMOFCon last year, it has been clear that the current political situation in the United States would significantly reduce the willingness of fans outside the United States to participate and in this fully hybrid convention we were proposing. In light of this, it seemed best course of action to end our bid. Unfortunately, we expect similar problems likely to confront any U.S. bid for SMOFCon for the time being. So this is pretty funny right here because they're basically saying don't hold conventions in the United States. And I guess they're just going to self-segregate themselves into Blue Sky, where they all just complain all day long. And by the way, there's no problem for any of these people. All they do is bitch about Donald Trump all day, and nobody bothers them about it, right? This is where they're at this point because we do have free speech in America. As much as maybe we shouldn't allow these commies to have free speech at all, they do. And so they can just hyperventilate and go crazy to their heart's content, and nobody's going to bother them about it. So, but they want a virtue signal so hard they will cancel themselves, and that's what they're doing, basically canceling their own convention in order to make sure they have a problem and they can make a stink going forward. Well, good riddance. I mean, it's not like anybody wanted to go to this anyway. On top of this, one Blue Sky user is flipping out at Seattle Worldcon this year. It's in Seattle. And here's this. We just got a new newsletter about, their science fiction convention, right? What's glaringly missing is some mention of the current climate, especially impacting transgender people and folks from other marginalized groups and people traveling from outside the U.S. So they wanted this newsletter about a science fiction convention to rant about politics. This is what they're demanding. It's like, no, they should stick to science fiction. They actually, I'll give Seattle 2025 kudos that they actually are running a science fiction con, I guess. They didn't invite me. Very sad. But they are not ranting about politics in their newsletter. That's a good thing. In fact, it just ruins conventions to do so. So this person is mentally ill, very clearly. You can see this right here. And that's where it goes. I really wish you'd say something publicly, seeing how many SFF fans and creators are trans and or queer and or BIPOC and or travel from outside the U.S. It's a lot of and/ors. I know that you do everything it might impact folks, but the silence is deafening. And I'd urge LA Worldcon to take a good look at how they want to run their con, taking all this into account. Yes. Very, very funny stuff as they're all going to go crazy. Now, SFWA, the Science Fiction Writers of America, I should probably do a separate video on this one, actually ran their Nebula Awards nomination the other day, and their president actually went out there and started ranting, again, it's like science fiction? Where? What, do we care about this? The first 2 minutes of the video was all about ranting about indigenous people, the unceded homelands and waters of the Atfalati Kalapuyans. Oh, yes. She's you can tell she cares. It's really ridiculous. But this is where these people are at these days, and this is why all these institutions are failing at spectacular rates. You can't make this stuff up. Nobody cares about fiction in these groups anymore. It's very, very sad. Leave a comment down below with what you think. Hit the like and subscribe button. This is my Stars Entwined, guys. Grab this in the description below and enjoy. Start reading today. Thank you very much. We'll be back soon.